I have waited so long for this. As have I, my dearest love, more than words can say. At the Montgomery Manor, there was an unwritten rule. No one was ever allowed to see the face of the master of the house. Until the night a maid saw it. Lord Thomas Montgomery was 40 years old, absurdly wealthy, and had an impossible reputation. Rich, grumpy, untouchable. Always dressed in black, always cold, and wearing a thin leather mask covering half his face. Some said it was vanity, others said it was arrogance, but no one knew the truth. Because Mr. Thomas never allowed questions, nor closeness, nor kindness. Joanna entered the mansion as an invisible maid. She didn't talk much, didn't draw attention, didn't make mistakes, but there was something about her that Thomas noticed unintentionally. She didn't watch him with curiosity, she watched him with compassion. And that irritated him deeply. The first confrontation between them happened one night, just an ordinary night. He found her cleaning the hallway near his office, a forbidden area. "Can't you read orders?" he said, curtly. Joanna kept cleaning calmly. "Yes, I can, sir." "Then why are you here?" She answered without looking at him. "'Cause no one comes to clean this hallway and ignore dirt. Always grows." He then frowned. Her answer seemed simple, but it carried something deep. He stood there for a few seconds, and for the first time in years, he didn't send someone away, even though it went against his rules. They would run into each other in the hallways of the house, and every time, Thomas was intrigued by her. Something in her gaze. When it was time to serve the tea, it was different. Also, her smile when she passed him in the hallway, or the way she offered to button up his shirt, their faces so close he could feel her breath. But the secret was still there. The mask. No one could touch it. No one could even mention it until the night of the fall. During a storm, a loud crash startled the horses in the stables. Thomas ran to contain the chaos, but slipped in the mud and fell hard. The mask came loose, and when he opened his eyes, Clara was kneeling beside him and saw it. That deep scar that ran across half his face, disfiguring him from his temple down to his jaw. The silence between them was heavy. He quickly pulled the mask back on, but Joanna didn't show any shock or pity. She just spoke softly. "That must have hurt a lot." That sentence hit him like a blow, because no one had ever asked about his pain before, only about the appearance of his scar. He didn't say a word to her that night, nor in the 2 weeks that followed. Overcome with shame, he started avoiding Joanna. Joanna then, even knowing she could get fired, decided to talk to him. She missed his glances, passing each other in the hallway, and the scent of his cologne when buttoning up his shirt. So she baked a batch of his favorite cookies and made some hot coffee and brought them to Thomas's office. She knocked on the door and walked in. Immediately, he turned his chair away from her. "Thank you. You can leave it on the table," he said. "Sir, I would like to..." He then interrupted her and said, "It was an accident. My parents died and I survived, but ever since then I've carried this mark. Many have pointed it out, mocked me, and I decided that no one would ever see me vulnerable again. So we don't need to talk about it. You can go on with your chores. Thank you." She then lowered her head and replied, "Yes, sir." But before leaving, something inside her told her she needed to say what she was feeling. "Mr. Thomas, you can fire me if you want, but I need to tell you something. First, I'm very sorry you had to go through all of that. But in no way should you feel ashamed. I had the pleasure of seeing your heart long before I ever saw your face. Even with you hiding so much and..." "I don't hide," he said, upset. "Oh yes, you do hide. But you don't hide behind that mask. You hide by trying to be someone you're not." "You're not a rude or harsh man. And with all due respect, sir, I actually think you look even more charming with that scar." "Joanna, you don't have to say that. Just to make me feel better," he said, still with his back to her. "Talking like that, fair, you offendy. I have no obligation to say it, but in these months I've been here, I've come to see a loving and kind man. And now beneath that mask, I saw a beautiful man. Let people see that side of you. Don't worry. Your secret is safe with me. Now, I'm going back to my quarters." Then Joanna started to leave the office, when Tomas quickly stood up, went toward her, pulled her close, and kissed her. A long, passionate kiss, as if they'd been waiting their whole lives for that moment. But the kiss ended as suddenly as it had begun. Thomas seemed to snap back to reality in that very instant. And then he let go of Joanna as if he'd touched fire and took a step back, breathing heavily, confused by his own impulse. "I'm sorry, Joanna, I shouldn't have." His voice faltered, something that almost never happened. Joanna then brought her hand to her lips, still surprised. And she smiled and said, "Don't apologize, I want more." And this time she pulled him in and kissed him again. Afterwards, they hugged each other. Then Thomas ran his hand over his mask and asked Joanna, "Why? Why didn't you feel disgust?" Joanna then looked deep into his eyes, gently held his face, and said, "I could never feel disgust for you. You're the man who helped the horses when no one was watching. The man who always left extra food for the poorest workers. The man who pretended to be cold, but who was never, ever cruel." She smiled, a simple and sincere smile. And she went on, "The scar just tells a story. It doesn't change who you are. And like I said, I find it charming." Something inside him, in that moment, he gave in, like a door that's been locked for years. And then, slowly, with trembling hands, he took off the mask. She raised her hand carefully, like someone approaching a wounded animal, and gently touched the scar on his face. The gesture was so gentle that his chest burned. "You don't have to hide anymore," she said, almost in a whisper. For a moment, I wished time would stop right then, when all that mattered was him and Joanna. But reality was knocking at the door. Joanna was a maid, and for a lord to marry a maid was a real scandal. They both remembered that in that instant, but neither dared to end the moment, even knowing it wouldn't last long. After a few more minutes, Joanna said goodbye and went to her room. There, alone, she cried because she knew that, as a maid, she could never get involved with the master of the house. She touched her lips with her fingers, still feeling the warmth of his there. And then Joanna closed her eyes, feeling her chest tighten. She imagined the looks, the whispers, the stifled laughter behind fans and elegant gloves. A maid, an intruder, a stain on a lord's name? Meanwhile, in another room, Thomas had made up his mind. Even if it cost him his title and caused a scandal, he was gonna marry Joanna. The next morning, he put on his best clothes, took a ring that had been left to him by his late grandmother, who had said it should go to the one he truly loved, and ordered all the staff in the house together. But someone was missing. Joanna. When he went to her room, he found the following note. "Mr. Thomas, I have never loved anyone the way I loved you. I saw all of you and wanted you like never before, but I could never put you in a scandalous situation by being with the maid. That's why I'm leaving. Never forget that your heart is incredible, and having you as a husband would be a true honor. Thank you for everything. I will never forget you. Joanna." Thomas couldn't believe what he was reading. He ran out in desperation, but it was already too late. She had left several hours ago. In the weeks that followed, Thomas searched for Joanna everywhere. He sent people to ask at other houses, inns, bakeries, and churches. He scoured simple streets and neighborhoods where a lord would never have set foot before. He spoke with coachmen, merchants, seamstresses, and even beggars. But no one knew anything. Every day, without fail, he would go to the train station and stand there among the crowd, watching every woman who stepped off the platforms. Whenever he saw a simple dress or a scarf that looked like hers, his heart would race, only to break all over again. It had been almost a month when, one gray afternoon, as he wandered aimlessly through the city streets, he saw her coming out of a small bakery, holding a basket of bread. "Joanna!" His voice came out hoarse but desperate. She sobbed. She stood still for a moment, then slowly turned around. Her eyes filled with tears instantly. "Sir?" He then crossed the street without even looking at the cars, as if nothing else existed. He stopped in front of her, out of breath. "I looked for you everywhere." His voice was trembling. "Why did you leave without letting me choose?" She then looked away, struggling with her own emotions. "Because I already knew what the choice should be." "No, you decided for me," he said, firmly. She then took a deep breath, trying to keep her courage. "You don't understand. I couldn't bear to see your reputation destroyed because of me. People would talk about you, laugh, question your title." Thomas then fell silent for a few seconds, and then he said with unexpected calm, "Come with me." She frowned, confused. "Where to?" "Just come." Before she could refuse, he gently took her hand and led her to the town's main square. It was a crowded place. Merchants, carriages, people talking. A lord would not go unnoticed there. And Thomas knew that. He stopped right in the center. Joanna then pulled her rice. "Sir, what are you doing?" He didn't answer. He just turned to the crowd and then, with a firm and determined motion, he took off his mask. For the first time in public. An immediate murmur spread through the square. Some people looked shocked, others curious. Joanna couldn't believe what she was seeing. But Thomas didn't look away. On the contrary, he raised his voice, loud, clear, and firm, and said, "For years I have hidden myself. I hid behind a mask, behind my title, behind the fear of your judgment." The murmuring grew louder then, and he took a deep breath and spoke even louder. "But I won't do that anymore. If anyone wants to talk about me, let him talk. If anyone wants to judge me, let him judge." Silence slowly fell over the square. And then his eyes turned to Joanna, full of emotion, full of truth. "But no one will open their mouth to speak badly about the woman I love." Joanna brought her hand to her mouth in shock. Tears streamed down without stopping. And he continued, "I love you, Joanna. I love the woman who saw me when no one else did. The woman who taught me that courage isn't hiding scars, it's living in spite of them." His voice faltered for a second, but he went on. "And if love in this woman means losing my title of Lord, then I'll lose it with pride." Thomas then took a step toward her, knelt down in front of everyone, took a ring from his pocket, and said, "Joanna, I can't promise you a life without judgment or without hardships, but I can promise you that I will never again hide from you or from the world." He then looked up, more vulnerable than ever, and said, "Will you marry me?" The reactions in the square were mixed. Some were shocked, others moved, and there were those who thought the whole thing was just absurd. All around, the murmurs began to grow. "Is this absurd? A lord with a maid? He must have lost his mind." But there were also those who watched in silence, touched by the courage of that man. Thomas heard everything, every whisper, every judgment, but he never took his eyes off her. Joanna was already crying, unable to hold back. And then, her voice trembling, she said, "Yes, I accept." And in that moment, in the middle of a crowded square, the man who had always been known as untouchable was finally seen, chosen, and loved with no mask at all. So we've reached the end of another story, and now the question is for you. Would you have the courage to put yourself out there and fight? To fight for love, even if the whole world was against you? Leave your opinion down below in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any stories. And of course, leave your like down below to give us that boost, okay? A kiss and see you next farm.